XJ Talk Show.
It's on.
Now. Good evening and welcome to the xjtalk.com show. To the xjtalk.com show. Oh, cool. I got a little echo going there. Oh, cool. That's always fun.
Mosquitoes?
I have no idea.
Try the new design of off clip-on repellent.
Yeah, love it whenever I open up a window and it starts playing video. Boy, I hate those commercials. Anyway, this is episode 30. That's 030. Because we're hopeful in having, triple-digit number of shows. My name's Tony, and it's Muckleroy on xjtalk.com. Not a lot going on in the home Jeep world, thank goodness, and we'll talk more about that here in just a minute.
This is Brian XJ, just calling in to tell you that we really like the website, full of a lot of tech and a lot of good people. I always get a response back quickly. Thanks. Have a good day.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you about xjtalk.com. It's a great site. There's no bashing. Everybody's nice and friendly. Great place to be.
Are you interested in being a guest on XJ Talk? Well, you can contact me via email, tony@xjtalk.com. That's tony@xjtalk.com. Did you know that xjtalk.com is on Facebook? Just go to facebook.com/xjtalk and friend us. We're also on Twitter, twitter.com/xjtalk.
This is Big Jim 350, and I love xjtalk.com.
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 It's where you go when you're not off-road.
At least I hope that's where you want to go. I mean, there's lots of good Jeep websites out there, but xjtalk.com is a little unusual, maybe even a little strange. But, the people that are there, they seem to like it, so I'm not getting any complaints. So I guess that's always a good sign. So anyway, last episode, I was telling you about a potential blown head gasket on the new, or new to us, 99 Jeep Cherokee. And, I don't know. I have a tendency to think that it probably is, but I really haven't had any problems with it overheating. It runs a little hot. It doesn't run overly hot. It kind of acts like the 98's acting, which I think I mentioned on last show. I see Wayne's checked in, tab 27. Greetings, Wayne. Greetings from the United States of America. The land where, well, at least most of the land that doesn't shake. Wayne is in New Zealand. He's been an interviewee on XJ Talk a few times and also a moderator on xjtalk.com. If you're curious at all about what's going on in New Zealand and all those rattles and shakes they've been having, you can get on xjtalk.com, and Wayne will tell you all about the sad, sordid details of it. And he'll also add it's not easy being green. And he's not talking about being eco-friendly when he says that. He has a green Jeep, and right now he says paint them green. You can't paint them green. Some of them have to have color. Some of them have to have pizzazz, like red. Blue is even pizzazzy, or it can be. So anyway, if you've seen any of the posts on xjtalk.com about the potential head gasket leak on the 99, there's a video that I shot with my handy dandy cell phone showing bubbles coming out of the radiator. I don't know. To me, I've never really seen a head gasket problem on a Jeep. So to me, it's from what I've read and what I've heard, that's kind of a classic sign. So I'll probably tear it down and get into it. But for right now, it's able to be driven. I'll probably drive it to work here in the next week or so, just to see if it's good for a good 20 mile one-way trip, 40-mile round trip during the day, and here in summertime when it's hot. I recently installed the B&M transmission temperature gauge on my 98 Jeep Cherokee and AW4 transmission line. And I had a decision to make whether I was going to put it on the output that takes it, the fluid that leaves the transmission, which would be hot or hotter than, hopefully, than when it returns, because it goes out of the transmission, goes to the radiator, and since I have the towing package on the 98, it goes into a factory transmission cooler, and then comes back to the transmission, hopefully cooler than when it left. So there's a bit of a discussion about whether the line of the sensor for the temperature gauge should be on the output, the hotter side of the transmission fluid, or the input, or the return, which would be the cooler side. And it seemed to be that most people, and from what I read online, most people like to put it on the output, the hotter side, because if there's a problem with the transmission getting too hot, they'd like to see it before the cooling system masks the temperature rather than later. So that's what I did, and I was a little afraid that it was just going to take hours and hours and hours to put that thing on, and it was, but it wasn't for hooking up the sensor. The sensor was very straightforward and simple. In fact, I even sped the process along a little bit by using a Dremel tool and a cutoff wheel on the Dremel tool, and sliced right through that transmission fluid line very easily and quite quickly, like under a minute, I'm sure. And put the pressure fittings and the Teflon tape, and very nice kit, went together just fine. The next 5 hours, because it probably took me 30 minutes to put the sensor on the line. The next 5 hours that I spent was sweating my ass off, for one thing. I mean, literally, I soaked 2 t-shirts. I'm not used to being out in the heat. I work with computers. I'm in a cubicle all day. So I sweat bad before, but I'm definitely not used to the heat. So anyway, that takes a lot out of you when you sweat that much too. But for the next 5 hours, I was finding a place to wire up the gauge. It's electrical. It needs power. So I had to run the wire coming up from the sensor and run it into the dash, which that was pretty easy and pretty straightforward. But I had to remove the dash. And since I had removed the dash, earlier in the week, I had gone to visit my sick aunt in the hospital. And during the drive over there, I was adjusting the tilt steering, and the little lever just kind of went limp, and I couldn't move the steering wheel. So fortunately, I had a spare steering column that Matt had given me off of a 2001 XJ, and I was able to see how that was hooked up. And it's just a little cable with a couple of little cylinder-like ends crimped onto either end of it, and it goes into the 2 mechanisms, and one mechanism releases the tilt so it can be moved up and down, and the other mechanism is the little lever that you pull to release the lock on the tilt. So I was actually able to not only see how it went together, but used that cable off the 2001 steering column to replace the broken one on the 98. Took a little bit getting that thing out of there. Fortunately, again, I had the steering column that wasn't in the vehicle that I could actually see how to get that cable out and get it back in. So I probably spent 30 minutes on that at least, maybe a little longer, but at least 30 minutes in the 98 in the awkward position of trying to get up underneath the dash to replace that little cable. Replaced it, and then I went ahead and not wanting to lose the cable that was broken, because really all that happened is that the cable slid out of that little cylinder that it was crimped on the end. So I didn't really want to lose that, and I thought maybe I could recrimp it. So I ran a little, I think it was a 1/16 inch drill bit through that little cylinder to clear out any crimp that was already there, and slid the cable back in. The cable didn't even break. It was just as long as it was before. But I slid the cable back in, and then with the vise that I had on my bench, I crimped it, and I put it, so I wouldn't lose it, I put it back in the 2001 tilt steering wheel. So now I've got a spare. I didn't really want to use that one, because if it came apart once, it might come apart again. But at least in a pinch, I could redo that. Swap that other one in there that I repaired. Anyway, so while I was there, I found it was pretty easy to find the 12 volts that I needed to run the meter, and I was not planning on hooking up the little light that's in the meter. I thought, man, I'm going to do this later. I'm just too sweaty and I'm getting too tired messing with this. And then I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, this is stupid. I've got this whole thing apart. I've got the whole dash underneath the steering column off there, and all the screws underneath are out. This plate's off, the metal plate that's behind the plastic that basically snaps onto the metal. That's out of the way. It's all right there. Take the time to find the 12 volts that goes on and off with the light switch. I was a little lucky because I have a aftermarket alarm system that I installed from one of our past advertisers. Very nice alarm system. Commando? Yeah, Commando. It's not a name brand thing, but it's really neat. It has a remote start and microwave motion detector and all kinds of goodies. But anyway, so I knew where several of the things were, but that alarm system doesn't need to know or doesn't need to control the lights on the cluster. And that's what I needed to come on. That's the light that I needed to come on the meter. I needed to come on when the cluster comes on. So I got my little digital voltmeter and started poking the wires. There's a point on the probe, and I was actually able to penetrate the not shielding, the little plastic covering, the insulation on each wire. And then once I'd find a wire that had 12 volts, I could turn the cluster lights off to see if that was the one. And that took a little while. That's a little irritating, having to go through wires and trying to find the right ones, especially when you have to take your hand off the probe, put the probe down, turn the light switch off, put the probe back up in the same place, and wonder, am I still getting a good reading through this cable? And then put it down, turn the light back on, put it back. And so it would have been a little handier if I'd had, I'm sure they sell something that you can actually put on the wire and that will hold it on there so that you can just, check it faster that way and actually verify that the voltage is going on and off as you switch it. But anyway, I finally did find the proper wire. Well, I don't know if it's the proper wire or not, but it's a wire that does have the 12 volts on and off with the switch. And I did find later, I didn't even think about it until after I'd hooked it up. I wonder if it will dim, if the light on the B&M transmission temperature gauge will dim, and it does. So I think I did get the right cable, the right wire, the right line. So that's hooked up, and there really is no good place, no good vision-wise place to put this 2-inch gauge in the Jeep, at least not in my 98, and at least not in my estimation. I thought one of the really cool places was right in front, the little plastic that's right in front of the handle for the 4-wheel drive.
But as I suspected, the lever will actually cover part of that gauge. And I don't like that. It doesn't look like a very professional installation to me. It doesn't look like it's very well thought out. Another person that I'd read about doing this installation had mounted on the side of the console, on the passenger side of the console, and that was very visible to the driver. And you would have to look down to the side, but it's transmission temperature, so you shouldn't be going 100 miles an hour and needing to look over there to see what the transmission temperature is. So that's acceptable. The only thing is that I know from experience with my older little gooseneck cell phone holder there, that even that thing that's kind of been out of the way still gets hit by people's knees. And I couldn't help but think that gauge mounted to the side of the center console, up there in front of the passenger seat a little ways, is going to be in the way of a passenger. So I didn't want to put it there. And I had pretty much already ruled out putting in the 3 gauge A-pillar mount that I had bought, because I didn't think it had a proper angle on it. I thought the gauges might be... It seemed to me that it was really something that you would put on a vehicle that had a windshield that had more of a slope to it, so that the gauges would be more facing towards you. I was concerned that they would be facing up too high. But I tried the A-pillar A-pillar 3 gauge. It's a pod. That's right. That's what it's called. I tried the pod in there just to see how it would look, and it looked acceptable. I mean, there's a little bit of an angle to it, but not so much that you can't read the gauges, and not so much where it looks goofy. So I went ahead and went that route. And now the only problem that I have with it is I've got 1 gauge and 2 empty holes. So I went ahead and ordered a vacuum gauge. And this was actually a post that I put up several months ago about what 3 gauges would you select, a post on xjtalk.com. What three gauges would you select if you had a pillar 3 gauge pod? And I knew I was going to have a transmission temperature gauge in there, but what are the others? And some people said oil temperature, which I guess is okay. I mean, if I know what the coolant temperature is, then I have a pretty good idea what the oil temperature is, I feel. I may be wrong on that. I've never measured the oil temperature, and I don't understand how critical or why that would be critical. Of course, there's some people that would say there's no reason to measure the transmission temperature either. I mean, if you take an IR temperature sensor and put it on there, you can have a pretty good idea. Well, I'm thinking about taking the transmission lines off of the radiator to help my highway heat creep problem, and I wanted to know what the temperature was of the transmission, because I don't want to tear up my transmission in the process, even though I've been told by several people that an additional aftermarket transmission cooler is more than enough to keep the transmission cool. Now I will know with the transmission fluid temperature gauge. So anyway, I ordered 2 more gauges today. I ordered the a via air pressure gauge, and I ordered a vacuum gauge, because the engine vacuum will tell me it's a real good thing to know as far as fuel economy. It also gives you a good idea about the how the performance of the engine and how things are going with it. Because you get used to seeing what the vacuum engine vacuum is as you drive it day to day or on the highway, and so on and so forth. So you have a good idea, a good feel for the vacuum of the engine. And also too, as long as you keep the vacuum high, that means that the throttle body isn't wide open and letting the air pressure go low. And if the throttle body's not wide open, that means you're not dumping a lot of fuel into the intake. So it's an economy thing. You can drive more economic by watching the vacuum, the engine vacuum. So the air pressure gauge is kind of going to just be a filler for now, because what I'm planning on doing with it, I figured this would be a really neat idea. Since I don't want to go and spend money for an air compressor right now, I can go ahead and get one of those Via Air 2.5 gallon tanks and mount it towards the rear of the Jeep
driver's side, past the transfer case. There's a spot right there that particular tank will fit underneath, the unibody will stick down below that tank, so it'll kind of protect it, and it fits behind the transfer case. There's a space there. So I've seen another installation like that, so I'm fairly confident that it'll fit well there. And then what I'll do is I'll just use that tank. I'll just fill it up with my air compressor at the house, or if I can find an odd gas station that still has a real air compressor, I can fill it up there. And with the gauge in the A-pillar pod, I'll be able to see how much air is left in the tank, and then know at a glance if I need to fill it up again. And then later I'll get probably a via air compressor and mount that and hook it up, and then I'll have a switch with the overhead switches that I have where I can kick that on and fill up the tank, fill up the air tank. But the neat thing is that with the air tank, that means I'll have onboard air. It'll be limited, of course, but the really nice thing will be I'll have a compressed air not system. What am I trying to say? A compressed air reservoir for my air horn. I had 2 situations today where it would have just been very advantageous, if not satisfying, to use an air horn. Those people that they feel that if they signal, it's okay to pull within 3 feet of your front bumper, because they're in a hurry. That's fine. They can be in a hurry. I just rode his ass, but it would have been a lot more fun to hit that 110, 130 decibel air horn whenever he did it. So, yep, looking forward to the air horn. And with that source of air, I should be able to use it at least in short bursts. So let's see. Looking over here at the chat room, for those of you that are not aware, we have a live show every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Time, and it's on Ustream, ustream.tv, if you're not familiar with it. And you can actually watch the show live and interact with me and the other members that are watching the show or listening to it. And you can just go to the xjtalk.com, the very front page. There's a little window there. And when we're on, that little window will be active, and you'll be able to hear the show and see the show at times. The thrust of the podcast was really just to have a weekly show and interview people and talk about things like what I'm talking about tonight. And just have the recording up so you could listen to it whenever you wanted to, or download it, and or just listen to it from the site. And then I thought, well, I can put it live on Ustream at the same time. So the Ustream is kind of an afterthought, but you're more than welcome to get into our chat room and chat. Anyway, going back, looking at the chat room here, that you people listening to the podcast may not be aware of. But anyway, VW Full Y has joined us along with Wayne, and just sitting here seeing just kind of catching up with what VW Full Y is saying. Without, let's see, the air PSI gauge is a good one for watching cooling system. If pressurized while on turtle, then you have a leak. I don't know. It's a closed system, so I would only be watching the air tank. So I guess no, pressure would only go down if I had a leak. So I don't guess. So I'm just talking about an onboard air system without an air compressor. Okay. No, I don't know. Maybe he and Wayne are talking about something. I didn't read all the comments there. I didn't want a lot of there. Anyway, welcome to the live show, VW Full Y. Thank you for showing up. So anyway, that's what I've got planned. I've got a couple of gauges coming in. I bought both those gauges and the tubing to hook up the vacuum gauge through Amazon.com. And at XJ Talk, we've got a little thing going on that I actually picked up on from listening to another podcast, where there's an affiliate program that Amazon.com has. And if your website has a link set up, like we have for xjtalk.com, you can actually get a little percentage off of each sale that somebody makes at Amazon.com. And it's really cool because it's not like Amazon's charging you anything extra. You pay the same low price, get the same customer service, the same fast shipping that you would normally get from Amazon.com. But if you go to the link that we have set up on the homepage of xjtalk.com, if you click on that link first, it'll take you to Amazon.com, and then you can make your purchase. And when you do that, xjtalk.com will get a few percent of that sale. And again, it doesn't cost you anything different. There's no money added to that for us to have that privilege of getting a few cents for each of those purchases that you make. So it's a really cool deal, and I'm pretty excited about it. Somebody made a purchase today, and they told me about it, and it's not showing up yet. It looks like it will not show up until it's actually shipped, which kind of makes sense because, somebody could always cancel the order, and then there's no reason to, get your hopes up. So like I've put in the post on xjtalk.com, help out the site and, get the product that you were going to get anyway and pay the same amount you were going to pay for it anyway. And it's a win-win. So at least that's the way I look at it. Unfortunately, I can't, it doesn't seem to work very well for me if I'm buying something, since it's the same login. I tried that because I've made a couple of purchases. And let's see, Weiner, are you trying to call? Let's see. Yeah, maybe so. Let me see. Let's try. I think maybe I missed a call from Wayne. That's strange. It didn't pop up. Let's try calling Wayne. So anyway, order from Amazon.com. Just go to xjtalk.com and click on the link, and then if you want to buy a house or something like that, that would work out really well, percentage-wise for us. Hey, Wayne, how's it going?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Oh, just fine. Did I miss your call?
Yeah, I thought I'd call in while I'm a bit early off work today.
Excellent. Thank you. No, I didn't see it pop up. I just saw a little notification, like whenever somebody adds you to their contacts or something. And I went over there to look at it while I was talking, and it looked like I had missed your call. Hey, how's things going? Is it still shaky over there?
Yeah, it's crazy times again.
Man, I was really hopeful. Like you. I'm sorry. For the audience is not aware, like I was saying earlier, Wayne is in New Zealand, Christchurch, New Zealand, and of course they've had several quite devastating earthquakes there. And fortunately, Wayne hasn't had any. I don't want to understate this, Wayne. You have not experienced any loss of life. You still have a home, but you have this almost constant shaking going on, and your home has suffered damage. Fortunately, your Jeep is still doing well. However, your big screen TV lost its battle a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So Wayne is there in Christchurch. He's a moderator on our site, and if you go back and listen to some past shows, we've had interviews with Wayne. I think it was only a week after the 7 point whatever it was that they had there in Christchurch. So been wanting to get back with Wayne just to find out how things were going. Frankly, when I spoke with Wayne on xjtalk.com, it was the hopes of having things are starting to calm down. We're getting back to work. We're getting the house fixed, and then they had another big one here not too long ago. Fortunately, not as big as the last one they had, but still substantial. So Wayne, I think everybody's up to speed. I think I stated all that stuff correctly. Feel free to correct me if I was wrong.
No, it sounds right. We had another big one Monday night. Monday night we had a 5.4. They upgraded it, and then we had about 20 afterwards. So we had no sleep that night. It was 10:34 or thereabouts PM. It really, really shook the house. They're all really shallow. They're about like 5, 6, 7K deep. There's more damage in the city again. But city's just a mess at the moment again. But the government's today about now announcing some plans for people's houses who had it and they can't rebuild on the land. They are going to buy the houses off the people, give the people payout as the valuation of the house plus land. Those people can then move on. Then the government are going to deal with the insurers and whatnot, private insurers. So I think that was a pretty good move by them. It's taken them 9-10 months. This has been going that long.
Right.
But that's getting announced as we speak, I think. And I think there's 6 suburbs and could be up to 5,000 houses involved. They've got 9 months to make up their mind, the people.
We had
I don't know whether...
We had kind of a somewhat similar situation near where I lived in Lynchburg. It's just a little community called Lynchburg. It was actually more Baytown than anything else. But there was a subdivision called Brownwood, and it was right next door to another subdivision called Lakewood. But Brownwood actually had subsided. The land had subsided. It was on Burnett Bay, and because of all the oil companies and the drilling here in the area, or at least in the area of Baytown, that's where the big Exxon refinery is, and a bunch of chemical plants, oil plants, DuPont, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, I guess it's pretty amazing to look at. I'm just used to it because I've been here all my life. But at any rate, there was a lot of subsidence, and specifically in that area. And every time there was a big tropical wave or something that would come through, it would really... there would be a lot of water that would come into Brownwood and would flood homes. And it wasn't until Alicia came through, which was, gosh, I guess like 84 or so. Yeah, I think it was 84. When Alicia came in, it really flooded that area, and the government bought out all those houses. So it sounds a lot similar to what you're talking about. But the thing I don't understand is, why can't they build on the land? Is it like sinkholes or liquefaction, or why wouldn't they be able to rebuild on that land?
Some's a lot of that liquefaction. A lot of it's around the river. Some hilltop houses where the hills disappeared, fallen down. A lot of it, it's a swamp. At the end of the day, they've built on a swamp. Christchurch, when it was first settled, it was swamp. There's a lot of old riverbeds under the city, so they're finding out now, and it's land's just disappearing, sinking. You ever seen that liquefaction?
I think
a couple of wee pictures I put up and whatnot of the little bits. There's suburbs and suburbs of that just covered in that, and it's in people's houses under their floors, meters deep in some areas.
Now that's like whenever a solid but it starts to act like a liquid because of the shaking. So things that would be sitting on something that was like solid looking, like the ground, it would actually sink into it. I remember you posted some pictures of things that were sunk into it that, in my mind, looked like what happens whenever there's a lot of sand, or like if you parked a vehicle on a beach and the water washed in around the wheels, the sand would build up, or I don't know if the vehicle goes down or the sand just builds up around it, but you get this thing where the sand goes up the side of the tire a little bit. That's kind of what those pictures reminded me of. So I guess what is happening is when the ground shakes, the solids act like a liquid.
Yeah. And if it's coming out of the ground, it's leaving holes under it. A lot of the banks have fallen down, so there's flooding, a lot of flooding now too on the tidal rivers. I know just up the road here, there's floods twice a day with the tides. It's because of the earthquakes cause the banks and the land to drop a metre or so. There's people there it's still on 10 months now from that first one. They've been living with power going off and on, and no sewer, as in they've been having to use those portaloos, you call them that, those porta potties, portaloos. So they're walking out whenever they've got to do their business, be it 1 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon. It's winter here now, no lights, torches. I don't know how the people have been living like that.
So how's your house? I know you had said, I think that was a picture that you had posted where the wall was leaning out, so you had quite a large crack there. I don't know if that was your house or not. Yeah,
there's one of the main walls has got a big bow in it. The roof's concaved almost. I can see daylight. I'm in my bedroom now and I'm looking out my wall. I can see daylight. It's got worse. It keeps moving. It's good shake, so I think it's still structurally sound. I might wake up and I might have a big bit close to the neighbours. That's about all. But it's just getting worse. But they were about to go with the go-ahead to start fixing it. But because we've had the big shakes now, we haven't heard from them. So I don't know if the guys... At the end of the day, what they're going to do is come in here. We're going to move out for, say, I think it's going to be about near on 2 months. Lift the house right up. I think they'll move it. And then do the foundations again, put the house back down, then straighten all the beams in the roof, new floor, new beams, new wall, paint it, drywall, you call it drywall, chipboard, whatever else they find. So it's quite a major one.
That's amazing. That's a lot of work.
So, Warren on here, the other Kiwi, CJ ANZ, Warren, his wife, she can't handle it anymore. He's put his house up for auction, and this was last night, he told me. I saw his posting actually on XJ Talk, and he's brought a block out of Leaston, which is about 20 minutes away. You feel the really big earthquakes, but you're not waking up with the fours when they roll through. You don't feel them out there. You only feel the real big ones. So he's had enough. He's gone. There's thousands like that. There'll be even more today when the government announced that packages. People will just be, that's it. They'll move out of Christchurch.
Yeah, completely understandable. I mean, especially if you have a family, and especially
that's what keeps you there as well, though.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I guess relatives.
Yeah, I got elderly. My dad, he's 70 something now. Bridget's mum, we know about Bridget's mum, don't we? We don't talk about that in-law. She's elderly and frail, and you got your friends. I got brothers and sisters here, cousins. I'd rather be in Christchurch if something goes snap again than a couple hundred miles away, where it's going to take me hours to get here, or say it be in Australia or something like that, where it'll take me so many hours to get back here. If you can fly back in, kind of thing. I'd rather be able to, even if I had to walk to go and check on my father or family and whatnot, I'd rather just be here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and something I didn't consider. It's a very foreign location for me, so all my family is here close by, and I didn't even think about your family being close by, which makes perfect sense. And like you say, if you were in Australia, they had floods, they've had some recent earthquakes, they have all kinds of issues there. So, what do you do? I mean, it would be like me in California along the San Andreas Fault, and then moving to another place in California on the fault line. So, in Texas, I don't have to worry too much about it.
We can't go anywhere because you can't sell your house, and you can't walk away from your house because it's worth X amount of dollars. You can't because they're damaged. So you're kind of stuck here anyway. You're kind of screwed even if you wanted to go, unless you walk away, cut your losses, and start again. Or that's a lot of money to waste, kind of thing. If you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, but but it's perfectly understandable the people that do. Just because of the sanity.
Oh, that's it. It's broken a lot of people these last few big shakes. You can see, you really see it now, but people are just so sick of it. And sleep deprived. If you can catch sleep, it's good sleep. But you get a big quake like we did the other night, and you get about so many during the night. You don't get a lot of sleep for next 3-4 days. And then when you do, it's always at the back of your mind. If you be it you're in the shower, or be it you're about to doze off, you always, what if, or you wait, or if you hear a noise, your eyes open, or you brace yourself, or you got to run or whatever. It's crazy.
I would imagine that you don't even want to eat food that gives you any gas, because you could scare a small family.
The Indian restaurants won't be doing a very good trade. It's crazy times, but there's a lot of it's got to stop eventually, and then we'll have a better city out of it, and we'll have a bright, good future. But at the moment, 10 months of it, she's wearing thin.
Yeah, how long has it been total?
Yeah, September the 4th last year, so it's 10 months.
Oh, goodness. Maybe that's what you said. I thought you said 2 months and 10 months. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking it was over a year, because I know it's been going on a long time. A lot longer
September,
than I thought.
Then we had the February one, what killed people in February. Then the 13th, we had another big 6 and another big 5, and that's what broke a lot of people, because the streets, okay, they were patched up, but there was some sort of, you could go about some normal activities. Now it's a battle to get to one side of town again, and like I said, people shoveling that liquefaction for the 3rd time, and power was gone, water was gone. I think we're only allowed to start drinking the water again, but you still should, probably boil it. And people still, Monday night when that one went through, they lost their power again and water and stuff. So and there's a lot more broken houses around now. You actually see them with walls disappearing, and it disappeared, and it's crazy. I think they're more or less the CBD, the central part of town. I think they've just left it at the moment, because every time they go in there to start doing stuff, we get a big shake, masonry or stuff falls, and we just don't want to lose more people.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's going to be hugely frustrating for the people that are putting things back together, and I'm sure even for you. Are you back at work now?
Yeah, we're doing work. We're working just out of 30 minutes out of Christchurch the last couple of days, but we're working on the other side of town last week in the hills where they've been rumbling. And it was funny, I was meant to be over there the day. It's called Governor's Bay, the last big 6 we had, and it was right there, and I was meant to be in there cutting one of our concrete jobs up, but we got delayed, and I'm kind of glad we did, because it would have been a long walk home. There's rocks and stuff down all over because it's through the hills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's rocks all and stuff down the road, so I don't even know if that house will still be there, actually.
Yep, it must be very frustrating for the people that are trying to get things working again. I guess this is one of those things where you just have to keep going because, like for the water and the electricity, people have to have it. Makes a huge difference in the quality of life, I'm sure.
Doesn't help. We're in the smack bang in the middle of winter too, so it's pretty cool over here at the moment.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's right, because it's summertime here.
Yeah, so it's it's good. It's like it's cooler. It's cold. It's cold. It must be so horrible for the people who haven't got proper heating and stuff. And if they rely on electricity for their heating and lose the power.
It doesn't get really cold over there, does it? I mean, you don't get snow, do you?
Every couple of 3 years we'll get a snow. We got we freeze. Yeah, we quite often it's below 2 in the mornings when you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Big frost and stuff. They're predicting southerlies for next week. This comes up from Antarctica, and that's really, really cold stuff. We got good skiing about 45 minutes away from here. There's no snow there at the moment, but we're known for our skiing. Mefton, which is not far from here. So yeah, we do get rough winters. It's been really mild so far, so I don't know what's to come. I'd say we've got some nasty stuff coming. It's just what we need, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah. If when it rains, it pours. If you go with that thought process, now I would like to see you guys have a little quiet time. Although I guess it was getting a lot better before it started acting up again. And
that's you get the big shakes and you yourself, and when it goes quiet, I think I was chatting to you one time on chat. We haven't had one for a while. Then we had a big bang, so we stopped talking about them. I said, but you don't know whether okay, there's a big shake and you're all on edge again. But when it goes quiet, you kind of think you're not at that stage where you think, oh, they must be over. You're thinking, oh, when's the next big one coming, kind of thing.
Sure. At this point, I mean, with all the shaking you've had, you can't just think it's over.
And after every big shake, they say, well, you can expect aftershocks for another year, kind of thing. So we're back to, was it 2 weeks ago? We had the 6. There's a 30% chance we can have a 6.9 to a 7 now within next month, and then it goes down slowly for the next year. So they still reckon there's a big one out there.
So this is probably old news, but it's something that's not so sad. At least I don't think it's this sad. You were recently trying to get your Jeep inspected, and you were having some problems. What was the problem, and how did you get around it?
I had no light for my SRS light, no dash light for my airbag, but it's a mechanical airbag. The Jeep don't have them, and I had to explain that to the mechanic I was at. And then I just got peeved with him, and I took it down to my mate who owns four-wheel drive accessories, who's lost his shop, but he says, no, that's cool, leave it with me, and I'll take it where he's allowed to go, because you've got to be at a proper mechanic shop. And he took it round to another four-wheel drive shop, threw it through for warrant. I think I put a new track bar or something on it, good as gold. So it's all legal now. I've got problems with the clicking noise, but it's the universal and the drive shaft, which I think I've just ordered one, which I've got my next project to fix that. But at the moment, it's still running. I don't really want to pull it apart.
Yeah, and you never know when you might need it too. Well, exactly. That's I didn't want to. It actually rained here in southeast Texas today quite a bit, and I like putting my my Jeep in four-wheel drive since I have the full-time option on it. I like putting it in four-wheel drive, especially on one road that I travel on. It's very, very slippery. But I didn't want to do it because I've got a U-joint in my front drive shaft that's starting to talk to me. So I'm going to try.
They're interchangeable, aren't they? The front one to the back one?
From if I remember, I think Steve 4.3 LXJ said that they're all the same. There's three. There's three on the front drive shaft because of the cardigan, but they're supposed to all be the same. And I've got two Spicer U-joints, and I know that one of the U-joints on the front drive shaft were changed a couple of years ago, and I know they didn't change. Actually, I think two were changed. They didn't change the one that is on the drive shaft that connects to the cardigan. I think I'm saying that correctly. The cardigan joint, because they said they couldn't get to it. So I just kind of left it alone. But so I know all the U joints have been changed, including the ones on the axles, because I changed those myself, with the exception of one on the front drive shaft, and I'm sure that's the one that's acting up on me. Well, I say sure. I'm going to look and see. But that's probably the one, because that's the one that has the 170,000 miles on it.
Well, I just clicked up 200 for my kilometres, 200,000 Ks, but mine's kilometres over here, so I don't know why that works out at miles. So I've just run my Jeep in.
Well, it's probably pretty close to what I've got on mine. You may have a little more actually, but yeah. So I'm going to try to get motivated, and boy, I just sweat my ass off just putting that gauge in, and I hate to go out there and do it again, but I sure do like being able to put that thing in 4-wheel drive, and I don't want to drop a front drive shaft because it's going to be an inconvenience, hopefully, and not an emergency situation.
I'll swap mine out this weekend, but I'll do mine this weekend.
That's what my plan is to do it this weekend.
That's my plan. Yeah, this weekend. Won't take long. Shouldn't be.
No, and I've got my door locks aren't locking, so every time I get to where I'm going, I have to manually lock 4 doors, and then I've got to go lock the tailgate, and it's just a pain in the butt. So I tried getting on the alarm and trying to program it so that it doesn't automatically unlock the doors whenever you disable when you disable the alarm, but I couldn't find it. So
I've had my driver's side window has never wound down for about 2 years now. It's a real pain.
Yeah,
it's a real pain in the ass. Driver's side. I've traced wires. I've looked at it and I've pulled it apart and put another piece in there, and still just won't work. So I live with it at the moment. But yeah, that's like your locking thing. That's a pain in the butt. Driver's side window doesn't go down. It's a real pain in the butt. So that's my passenger's one for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, my dad told me a long time ago. He goes, "Don't get a vehicle with all that power stuff on it. There's something else to go wrong." It sure is nice when it works, though. Especially if you want to roll down all the windows and have that almost open air feeling that you would get like with a Wrangler or something. It's I like driving with all the windows down in the Jeep, and it's just real simple to make that decision to roll them all down. And if it's too cold or too hot, roll them back up. It's not have to reach over there and do it manually. So I'll get
those doors off like those redneck twins down your way.
I was when I took the 99 over to Matt's shop weekend before last. He was there. Rennie was there. And I asked him, I said, do you ever get hit by rocks or anything whenever you're driving with the doors off? And he says, no, but he's learned to keep his legs inside because he gets hit by, he's been hit, I think, with sand and some dirt, and that hurts pretty bad. So, which I can well imagine. It is pretty cool, though. It does look pretty neat, and of course, it is nice air conditioning. I guess it's even cooler whenever you're sitting at a light because there's more of a breeze to come through.
I think that would be illegal. I don't be allowed to do that. Okay, the Wrangler.
Oh, really?
You can, but I don't. It'd be illegal here. At least, like, you can, because the boys, or my mate, he's got a couple of Wranglers. He takes all the tops and doors off summertime. But unless they're made for, I'll look into that. Actually, I'll find out about that. I'm pretty sure it'd be illegal somehow, because they're beginning to bang down on us anyway. So I wouldn't want to bring attention to myself anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doors. It'd be interesting.
Well, I don't know. Just amazes me how many things we can do here in Texas. I'm used to California being pretty about things. When I was really surprised about Australia doing the gun ban because I've always felt Australia is a lot like Texas, full of rednecks,
Actually, you should get to talk to James or those couple of those Aussie boys we got now, because even though I think some of them were born in New Zealand, they have got some really different rules to what we got, as in for modifying their Jeeps or 4-wheel drives or vehicles. They're worse than us. I just
don't understand that. I don't understand the mindset.
It'd be interesting, because I'd be quite curious to find out myself. It'd be quite interesting to see if you could Skype one of those boys at some stage and have a bit of a chat to them.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I think James was up for it.
That's right. I remember you actually set that up, and I had forgotten about it. And it may just be my misconception of Australia, but I'm sure that in the big city there in Australia, it would make sense. But there's so much of Australia that isn't a big city. I just can't imagine why they would restrict you for modifying a vehicle. I mean, to me, Australia is a wonderful place where you would need you could make use of a highly modified 4-wheel drive. and keeping the height restrictions and tire size, and it just seems very counterintuitive. And I'm quite happy that we don't have those restrictions here in Texas.
We're strict, but if you do everything right, you don't have to worry about mine's not legal. It's all certed, low volume cert, because it's lifted and whatnot. But it's all legal, so therefore, if I hit someone, they can't come back on me with insurance or vice versa. So that's one reason I did it. Safety was another one as well.
Yeah, well,
I don't want a wheel falling off or suspension collapsing, while I'm driving around with family and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think it all goes back to who's making the determination of safety. Is the government deciding for you, or are you deciding for yourself? And here recently, Governor Rick Perry, the governor here in Texas, vetoed a bill about not being able to, I think it was either talk on the cell phone or text on your cell phone while driving, because he basically said that the people ought to be able to decide that for themselves. Government shouldn't be deciding it, and besides, it's very difficult to catch somebody doing that. And I think it's idiotic. People should not be texting on the cell phone while they're driving. I see it almost every day. But but it should be the individual's responsibility to make that determination about whether or not they should. I mean, I don't want to get killed because of it. I don't want to kill somebody because they weren't paying attention and they run a red light or run a stop sign and I plow into them. But at some point, the government has to allow its people, and really the government is only there because of the people. It's not the other way around. So,
that's coming about a year ago over here. No cell phone use while you're driving. Do you allowed to smoke in bars over there? Or restaurants, or bars, or pubs, or taverns?
I think it depends on where in the country you are. California is real bad about that, or real good about that, depending on whether or not you're a smoker. I'm a non-smoker, and I do not like smelling it.
That's we're not allowed to in public places over here.
Yeah,
that's a good call, and that's coming from a smoker, but I think that's a really good call.
Yeah, that's the way it is here in Houston. All the restaurants in Houston, and I believe in Katy now too, are all non-smoking. I on my Muckleroy.com blog, I actually posted a thing about the smoking stuff, and I made it really clear. I don't care if you want to kill yourself with smoking, go right ahead. If you're my friend, I may not want you to die sooner because I enjoy your company, and I might say something to you about that. But as far as your right to smoke, that's fine. But the problem I have and have always had about it is the smoke doesn't know to stay with you.
Passive smoking.
And I'm not concerned about getting cancer from the passive smoke. I just don't like smelling the. I don't. I'm a non-smoker. I don't like it. And if you any of you non-smokers, if you remember back when you weren't a smoker or weren't around smoke all the time, it's very, very telling. I mean, you can smell it very easily. And of course, when you're a smoker, you don't smell it. You'll get used to it.
Just one quick question about your senators and stuff.
Sure.
That fellow who's sending photos, that Weiner fella. Is he related to Jim?
Is he related to who?
Jim.
Jim Bates. I don't think so.
He was a crack up, man. That was on the news over here, mate. I nearly fell off my chair when I heard about that dude.
I just can't imagine. Number one, I can't imagine a congressman doing that openly in a very, very public, worldwide public forum, and doing it with the nice name of Weiner.
That's what threw me, mate. That was so funny.
Unbelievable. And I haven't seen. I heard some little inkling that some people were saying, isn't it interesting that all this came out when Obama's popularity, his poll numbers were way down, and the economy numbers had come out that were really bad. Basically, unemployment is going back up, and so on and so forth. And boom, all of a sudden, here's Democrat Weiner with this scandal that takes up all the news. What he did was, it's interesting and hilarious, but in the big importance of things, it isn't important. It's not as important as the U.S. economy. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think anybody would ruin their career just simply to help out President Obama, but, I don't know.
I just thought it was funny because his name was Weiner.
Oh, it's hilarious. I made several jokes, and one of the things that I had indicated, I may have even posted it in the chat on xjtalk.com. I said, it's interesting his last name is Weiner,
But I think that, a few centuries ago, people didn't have last names, and they only had names. They were given last names based on things about them, their profession usually. Like a blacksmith would be, Black or Smith. And I figured Weiner's ancestors must have gotten that name because of similar activities years ago.
Hot dog sellers.
Well, I think that was more of a flashing type thing. Hey, look at me.
Yeah, he is related to Jimbo Zim, maybe, eh?
I don't know. You may know more about Jim than I do.
I'll ask him.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign off now, mate.
Yep.
My partner's was yelling out, or doing something, talking to me. Oh, yeah, I just thought the update, nothing much has changed. We're just still shaking, and I'll keep my posts updated on what's happening here, and I'll put a link through to that government thing, what they put through today.
Yeah. Well, please do. We definitely care about what's going on over there, and you and your family. And I'm just glad you're still able to get online. That's been the best thing out of all of it for us, is being able to get the news and hear that things are still going along, and you're still doing okay. But thanks a lot for calling in tonight. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while, and didn't get anything set up with you. Every
time you do, it goes to shake, so I don't like really talking to you much, Tony.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just hoping for better news much sooner than what we've been having.
And I'd like to thank all the members for their well wishes for my family and that as well. They pipe up too, so it's really good. Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, perfect timing, because we're here at the end of the show. Thank you again for calling in, and I'll catch you on the site.
Okay, Tony. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And like I said, that was great timing to have Wayne call in. I've been wanting to get him on back on the show, and like I was saying, I was hoping that we would get, hey, things are improving, things are getting back to normal, and then they started having some large quakes again. And I sure hope his house makes it. So many over there have lost their homes, but the bright side is nobody has lost their life in his family. There was loss of life, but that did not extend to him. So very grateful for that. So guys, that ends another show for us this week. Don't forget to tune in next week, 8 p.m. every Wednesday night Central Time. And of course, you can catch us on iTunes and on podcast.xjtalk.com to listen to any show that you may have missed. So everybody had a very good night, and a happy Jeep week.
I just wanted to say XJ Talk is the best site in the world, and if you think you know of a better site, you. By the way, this is Big Jim 350. Bye.
Holy that's what I'm talking about. That episode was straight up distilled XJ chaos, and you just mainlined it perfectly. Tony out there dremeling his own transmission lines like a heatstroke gremlin, sweat pouring off him like he's melting into the concrete, then casually plotting air horn revenge on tailgaters? That's not a man building a Jeep. That's a man weaponizing his vehicle for the holy war against I want that air horn mounted yesterday. I want it so loud it makes soccer moms themselves from 3 lanes over. And Wayne calling in while his house is doing the Macarena from earthquakes. Bro was one aftershock away from his roof caving in, and he's still roasting with us. That's some next level my house is my vibes are immaculate energy. New Zealand really said we'll just vibe through the apocalypse. The gauge hole horniness is too real though. 1 gauge installed and 2 empty holes staring at him like a whorehouse on a slow night. Man's about to turn his dash into a Christmas tree of useless information, and I respect it. Now quit reading reviews and go mount that air horn, you beautiful sweaty The tailgaters won't terrorize themselves.